Welcome to church, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So I did go ahead and go grab a Title Tuesday game between Andrey Esipenko and Wesley So. And this is from August 22nd, round number 6. So all of my people coming from the Philippines, as always, I would say Meron Salamat. Anybody who is coming from Russia, I would say Bolshoye Spasiba. Appreciate everybody very much from all over the world, of course. But if you guys are ready to go, homie, let's take a look, see what we got for this game. All right, man, so we got E4. We got the move C5, so we have the Sicilian defense. One of the most combative defenses you can play against one E4. We got knight to F3. We got D6, all very standard stuff to this point. And then we do see bishop to B5, which is the canal attack. And I've always said, I don't know why they named it that way. This kind of looks like a canal to the king. So you got to block some kind of way. And we do see knight to D7. And I will say this. It's kind of brought back some memories because I've actually played this in a tournament over the board myself. I was playing a candidate master. I was a little nervous. And he played this. And I was like, no. What? You know, it's like whenever you're playing chess and you're playing your memorization, and you're like, I know this all the way to such and such. And then somebody plays some random move. You're just like, all right, man, I'm lost. Like, I don't know what to do now. And I mean, I still played okay, but I lost. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it real with you. But anyways, man, we do see knight to D7. We got castles by white. We got A6. Black is like, bro, you know, what are you gonna do with your bishop? You really kind of don't want to retreat it because B5 is going to come. And then it's like there's so much space that black is grabbing on that side. So you do see bishop taking D7, bishop taking D7, and then you do see the move C3. And this is just, C3 is just trying to establish, you know, that perfect pawn center, of course. So we do see knight to F6, a nice little counterattack. E4 is always vulnerable, and we do cover that with rook to E1. And then we have bishop to C6. And that is, it's an interesting thing because you have kind of reached a point in the game. You know, are you just going to simply defend this pawn or are you just going to give it away just because, like, right? All right. So you do have the option to go D3 or maybe queen to C2 and just double, you know, protect the pawn. But Esipenko said, bro, I don't even care about none of that, dog. D4. And so you're basically saying that I'm going to give up this pawn because obviously right now you guys can see that it is under defended by white. But there is a very good reason why white would give this up. And we'll get to that in a second. Bishop taking E4. It does give the pawn, yes. But it does open the E file halfway. And black's king is still stuck in the center of the board. So even though you've given up a pawn, you've gotten some compensation as far as having a good initiative. And to press that initiative a little bit more forward, we do see bishop to D5, bishop to G5, and this is a very clear threat. This bishop is only defended by this knight, so if we can remove this knight right here, then we have a free bishop. So, in light of that, Wesley So says, okay, I'll go ahead and take bishop takes F3, queen takes F3. But like I said, because of the fact that you do have a half-open E-file, you do have a lot of pressure right now on this knight, and you will see that come to fruition in a second. We do see the move D5. Now, you have some threats in the position. Like I said, you have bishop takes, pawn takes, and then queen takes, which is what we see. But we also have a little bit of fire on this B7 pawn. So it just kind of depends like how you kind of want to play the position. It's probably best, though, to either go queen D7, queen C7, or queen B6 and just protect and not really change anything. You're going to be losing this pawn over here regardless of what you do. So it doesn't really matter. But we do see D5, and then we have bishop taking F6, and then pawn taking F6, and then queen taking F6, which might look kind of strange to some of you. But like I said, this rook is pinning this pawn down. And also what we're doing is we're attacking this rook on H8, and you really only have one move you can play, and that is rook to G8. There was no other moves that would work, because if not, you just throw the bishop away on G7. You can't do that. So we do see rook to G8. We see knight to D2, and then we see Wesley So saying, hey, man, move your queen. I don't like it right there, man. It's too close to my king, bro. Like, my king and your queen are not friends, son. So we do see queen going back to F5. Back it up, homie. And then we do see E6. But you remember what I was saying. This rook is pinning this E pawn down. So the queen has some good free reign to kind of be, you know, attacked by pawns on the E file and not have to worry about moving. We do see knight to F3. And the one thing that I will say as far as black is concerned is they do have this half open G file. So the real big test for Wesley is, Can he try to make a way where maybe he like gets castled or something, and he can get both of these rooks on this G file? We will see. Queen goes to f6, and unfortunately, this actually just gives away a pawn. Like, black, you know, white has already gotten their pawn back, like in the situation. Like, you know, they gave the e pawn and they got, you know, the g pawn. But this actually gives another pawn because, like I said, that e pawn is pinned. So we do see queen taking d5. The detail in the position that you had to be making sure you paid attention to, though, is this pawn is pinned to the king, so this knight is undefended if the queen moves away. So you really kind of have to go like either the h5 or taking on d5 and making sure that you, or trading and just making sure that you can protect this knight if you do move the queen. So queen takes d5 does do that. It also hits b7 from, you know, like kind of like earlier. We got rook over to b8, sidestepping all that. We got the move g3, which doesn't absolutely have to be played because you're not in like really any super real danger. But g3 does break the pin, and then now you have the ability to, you know, move your knight somewhere, maybe e5 or something like that. Pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4, and then we do see the very, very subtle bishop to e7, which doesn't look like much, but it does break this pin on this e file. So you have to do something with your queen because now, you know, you are not pinning down the e file no more. So that is why we see queen to e4. You definitely also had queen back to b3. Just making sure that you're making moves that hold this knight right here, because this knight is kind of lonely if the queen leaves. So like, come back. We do see queen to e4. We see the move h5. I mean, that pawn on the side of the board on the h file isn't really too much good for anything. So you really kind of have to try to use it dynamically. So that's what we see Wesley So doing here. We got rook a to c1. We got rook down to g4, just harassing, you know, the white queen a little bit, asking it where it wants to go. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to move it. So, but we're trying to see if we can dislodge it from the protection of this knight. Deflected. We do see queen down to e3. We got bishop down to d6. And like I said, even though, you know, you did go, you know, you did move g3, you know, maybe black might can muster something up, like, you know, with the pawn moving here, we got the bishop kind of trained on there. So we do see the move d5, trying to break everything open. One of black's issues that they do have in their position is the fact that they've moved both of their rooks. So now they can't castle in any kind of way. So, you know, it's really kind of hard for Wesley So to try to figure out, like, where am I going to put my king? Because it's a really serious question. You guys can probably see there's not a lot of great places to put the king. We do see the move bishop to f4, and then we bring ourselves to the thumbnail. Now, this looks kind of bad. I'm not going to lie, right? Like, you got this little skewer going on. Like, the queen is hid, the rook is hid. So, I ask you in this position, if you want to pause the video, and there is a really, really beautiful move. Actually, hold on. Yeah, just, I'll ask you this. What move does Esipenko play in this position here? There's a very legitimate reason behind it. There were other moves, so I'll talk to that in a second. But if you want to guess and see what move Esipenko plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so before I get into that move, one of the recurring themes in this position is the fact that you really, really want this bishop like eyeing this rook. And there are some tactics that kind of come into play as a result of that. So if you did actually say which is the best move in the position, queen to a7, that would definitely be understanding that idea because now the bishop doesn't want to take because you're going to be dropping this rook with check. You absolutely don't want that. So like I said, that's a recurring thing. So if you did say queen to a7, that is a good alternate move. The move that we saw Esipenko play in the position is queen to c3. And like I said, there's a very specific reason behind it. For black, their queen is undefended on f6. So what better way to kind of try to weasel out of a skewer or a pin or whatever other tactic than to use the tactic. It's not really a super tactic, but, you know, just looking for undefended pieces. So when you're playing your games, man, sometimes you can be attacked, but, you know, look for undefended pieces in your opponent's position, and maybe you might have like a way to get out of something. So, you know, you have asked a big question to black. So king does go to e7, trying not to change anything, trying to not be on that checking area. And then we do see pawn taking e6. And we have pawn taking e6. And it might seem like I said, maybe that you can take on c1 now. But there's, like I said, there are those tactics that I was mentioning before. If the bishop ever moves off of that diagonal, queen to c7 would be dropping the rook. So just basically white is able to kind of like start picking at all of black's undefended pieces in their position. So that's why it's really dangerous to have undefended pieces. But we do see pawn taking e6. We got knight going to d4. And we see bishop taking g3. You might wonder why is bishop taking g3 for? Well, the problem is you have to kind of like set some type of trap, because looking at this position, rook takes e6 does just win the queen. You have to give up the rook and the knight for it, but I mean, it's a very legitimate trade for sure. And so you have to kind of go into desperado mode, and that's what Wesley So does. He goes bishop takes g3, and after pawn takes g3, it is actually in this position that Wesley So resigns the game. And you might be wondering, like, why does he just resign the game? Well, like I said, rook takes e6 is a check that's going to win the queen. You're going to give up 2 pieces for it, but you're still going to have a rook and a queen versus 2 rooks. So that's a very favorable endgame. Also, the problem is you really don't have a good way to kind of get out of it. You know, you have this issue. Queen to c7 can always be a check, so the king really can't move too many places. But if you did, you know, let's say you move this pawn down here, you would kind of have a very similar problem as when the bishop was there, because you have this check right here. Even though the bishop's not there, so it can't influence it anyway, you know, you have the ability to place this check. So if you did go into this situation here, so backing up, after bishop took g3, it might seem like, well, wait a minute, you were talking about this rook takes e6 stuff, so can I just do it right now instead of capturing back? Well, like I said, as black, you have to kind of set a trap. There was a nice little try that Wesley So put in the position. That's why he went bishop to g6, or bishop taking g3, and he was hoping for maybe something like this. Maybe Esipenko wasn't calculating good, and he went, not pawn takes, he went rook takes e6, going for the queen first, and then after queen would take, which is what you have to do, if you get too grabby with material, knight would be taking e6, and then you would actually have this nice tactic bishop to e5 check, and it is a discovered check on the king, and it is also attacking the queen. So you have gotten your material back, and this is a much better position for black. So, I mean, you have to try it, bro. But that was not played in the game. So we got to this position here. And after this point, Wesley So says, I don't want to play that end game. So he goes ahead and resigns. So I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. Magandang umaga, maayong buntag. For anybody who is coming from the Philippines, kamusta na aking kaibigan, mabuhay. And anybody who is coming from Russia, again, I will say, Bolshoye spasiba, kakadela dobre otra, and I'm going to see everybody next time.